What team is going to put all others on tilt this evening? Where will Brandon Ayuk get selected? And will value be non-existent in tonight's selection process? Follow along with the live draft board. Watch our pick-by-pick analysis as we call the action. From the 2025 FFPC Pros versus Joe's Red Hot Chili Peppers Division number 3 to see who's going to win a 2026 FFPC Main Event squad and who's going to win a pair of socks, apparently, as well. We've got a great show for you. Farrell Elliott and Dave Tripoli are here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your final draft of Week 1 of the 2025 Pros vs. Joe's Challenge starts now.
Can't stand the pressure. I've seen greater men than need a lesson.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Farrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Farrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture. Are we not all our father's sons? I became a man. Nobody ever told me what a man was.
Thank you, Rob. Greetings and salutations to all of you Balkaholics and Ferrelliacs. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com, the Fantasy Football Players Championship. My name is Eric Balkman. I'm a slightly above average host, so I've been told. You can connect with me on X at Eric Balkman. My co-host tonight will be the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, Farrell Elliott, and the 14-time FFPC League champion, Dave Tripoli. Tonight, it is the third of 6 special episodes for you. It's the 2025 FFPC Pros versus Joe's Red Hot Chili Peppers Division number 3 draft. We'll be covering it for you tonight for the duration. Shout out to the chat room right now. Post any questions you might have in there. You can connect with the show and with Dave on X at HSFF Hour and at Dave Turp, respectively. And don't forget about Farrell's Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com, Facebook.com/HSFF Hour is where to reach us there. And of course, high stakes fantasy football at gmail.com is where to go if you want to send in any emails tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, you have 5 days until the deadline day for the 2025 FFPC Main Event early draft slot announcement. That means when you pay for your team in full or get your team squared away by Sunday, Pacific time, midnight, July 27th, you will get your draft slot on Sunday, August 3rd. Remember, if you already have a team or teams, you're going to get $600 off each additional team you add on. Square those balances away at myffpc.com. Want to bring in my first co-host tonight, ladies and gentlemen, the man, the myth, the legend, the Terp. He is Dave Tripoli. Dave, welcome in, man. How you doing?
Doing well. Just got done a draft with JD. We did a little best ball. I'll stream. That should be coming up here soon. Definitely was fun. We had a great draft. It went really, really well. So excited to get this started and see if this is any different than last night.
Yeah, JD hosted the FFPC Insider Access show with me a couple of weeks ago, and I saw that he was going to be streaming one best ball tournament tonight. So you are already in draft mode, Terp. You are ready to go, fired up. And it's going to be fun tonight because we got a great crop of good drafters. I'm going to introduce them to you in a second here. The FFPC Big Gorilla Tournament is going on right now. $1 million grand prize, $350 entry fee. You're going to get a $50 discount on every third team that you pick up as well. Drafts off and running both live and slow right now. And check out that 7 Bananas promo. If you keep getting that 7 pick multiple times in a row, you're going to get a free best ball tournament team, a free main event team, a free high society team. And if you get it 5 times in a row, Jungle Safari for 4. Check that out at myffpc.com. We have tonight from the one spot, Mike Schopp. I'll just bring this up right now, Terp, and bring up the draft board so everybody can see it. Mike Schopp and Adam Krautwurst from the Deep End Fantasy Football Podcast drafted Jamar Chase number 1 tonight. The Maselli tandem, Drew and Josh Maselli, drafting number 2. They go Brock Bowers, first tight end off the board at the 102 tonight. John Daigle from Establish the Run goes Bijan Robinson at the 103. John Zaleski hitting cleanup tonight. He drafts Jahmyr Gibbs at the 104. Saquon Barkley goes to Fantasy and Frames and player profiler Stacy Perez. She gets Barkley there. Jefferson and Lamb, respectively, to Rob Vieira, one of the more successful FFPC Joes around. I've done a ton of shows with him. Very knowledgeable guy and an excellent pickleball player as well and pickleball coach.
Interesting.
Yes, very interesting. CeeDee Lamb goes to Fantasy Life's Dwayne McFarland at the 107. Ashton Genty goes to Dom Barani, Nick Costantino, and Sean Stutzman tonight. The Go Bills, former FFPC Main Event back-to-back champs. They go with Genty at the 108. Malik Neighbors to the Stealing Bananas guy. That's That's Sean Siegel from RotoViz, Ben Gretsch from Stealing Signals. And then you have the Hooks. That is Ben and Randall Hook, FFPC Joes, that draft Trey McBride at the 110. Christian McCaffrey to Matt Schauf. That is Matt Schauf from DraftSharks.com. One of the more successful pros. I'll bring up the leaderboard here in a second. With what we have all time for the pros versus Joes, but I think Matt's like top 15 all time. He's right up there. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown to Dan Amato at the 112, the final Joe for the evening. So number one, Sean Green wants to know, Terp, what jersey is that? Is that Deshaun Jackson that you're rocking tonight?
It's not. It's a specialty jersey. Why? 13 years ago, sad story, but my mom passed away. She was a diehard Eagles fan. So her name, the nickname that we called her, is on the back here. It's just the number 13, which was her birthday. That's what the jersey is.
Got it. So you can't even get this anywhere. Don't even try. It's like a house in Tuscany.
You can't. People think it's Nelson Aguilar, and it's not Nelson Aguilar. So please don't put that in your brain. It is not Nelson Aguilar.
So we're through the first round tonight. Terp, I wanted to bring this up. Darren Armani posted this on X earlier this afternoon. He thought that this was the most talented group of Joes in this year's contest. You have the Masellis, who obviously play a lot of the higher stakes leagues, the
monsters,
the 5K, monsters. The 10K leagues out at the Vegas live events at Perez Casino. John Zaleski, who's been in this, I believe he's been in Pros versus Joes before. He's another really good best ball player. I already told you about Rob Vieira. Constantino, Stutzman, and Barani are the only
back-to-back main event champs. They're definitely not Joes.
Yeah, only ones ever to do it. And then you have the Hooks with Ben and Randall, and then Dan Amato, who's a very accomplished player as well.
Yep.
This is, I think the pros already understand. They know what they're getting in for, and it's not going to be easy. But I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. This is a really, from top to bottom, all six of these Joes teams, super talented.
100%. This is an extremely tough draft. Looking at all the things when they came out, I definitely picked this one as just murderer's row. I mean, there's no easy spots in here where you're getting any value. This is pretty much a go get your guy type of thing, and then just hope it works out.
Terp, let's talk about the first round here. Brock Bowers at the 102. This is earlier than he normally goes. Again, for anybody who's watching this is a tight end premium format. So tight ends go a little bit earlier. There's no kickers, no defenses. Best ball, so it's set it and forget it. The lineup will be one quarterback, two running backs, two receivers, a tight end, and two flexes. So you could start up to three tight ends. I mean, again, you don't start them. This is what the scoring system automatically decides after the week is over for optimized lineups. But what do you make of Brock Bowers at the 102 over guys like Robinson, Gibbs, Barkley, Jefferson, and Lamb?
It's not for me. I'm definitely taking Robinson, Gibbs, Barkley, Jefferson, Lamb, and maybe McCaffrey over Bowers. I'm not going to sit here and say I won't have some of Bowers, but not that high. I just feel like that's a little bit of a reach overall compared to some of the guys that just went directly after him. There's no way I'm taking Bowers over Bijan Robinson ever. I get it. The people think there's a big drop off at tight end this year after the top three. And there is, based off, a lot of things that are out there when it comes to Andrews, Kelsey, Laporta, Hawkinson, guys like that. They're not as sexy as the top three, but I just feel like, Jefferson, Lamb, Robinson, Gibbs, Barkley, and a couple other guys I probably would take over Bowers because I don't think the advantage is there as much as people think there is. And I really just believe that the running backs there, especially when you're picking at the beginning, I feel like if you could secure a Robinson, a Gibbs, a Barkley type of start, it gives you so much roster flexibility going through the next couple of rounds that, if Kittle comes back to you, Kittle makes sense. And if Kittle doesn't make that, you literally can just pound receiver and running back for a while and still have, solid tight end options, especially in the best ball format.
We got Bradley LaSalvia chiming in on YouTube right now. Wild to see Bowers moving up like he is. Love to see that people are buying into him. On paper, he has the potential to keep balling out. And I think that's a great point. He obviously could. I think about how close he and McBride were last year. Terp, and McBride just could not find the end zone.
The worst run out in the world. The worst. I mean, when it comes to Trey McBride, you can't, for as good a season as he had, because he had a great season, you add a couple more touchdowns in here, and you're talking about Trey McBride going next to Jamar Chase. People are, is there really a difference between both? I don't think so. I will take the cheaper guy. I'm not in any way downgrading Bowers' his talent or any of that stuff. I'm just, based off roster construction and all that stuff, I feel like taking Bowers there just kind of puts you a little bit behind the 8 ball. I mean, it worked out for him because AJ Brown fell in the second round. So that just like, gets things a little, going a little bit more, but AJ Brown usually doesn't fall to that spot. So, it usually won't work out like that. And you're going to looking at guys that maybe don't excite you as much.
Terp, I want to bring on our the third part of our trio here tonight. He is the definitive commissioner of fantasy football.
I can't wait to hear why he's late. Cannot wait why he's late.
The KFFSC is where you want to go, kffsc.com. He is the incomparable Farrell Elliott, and he joins us tonight. Farrell, good Tuesday evening to you. How you doing, my friend?
Gentlemen, I apologize. I am sorry I am late, Terp, especially when – Balky and I becomes old hat. We're a duo, then he understands the flow of some of my poor attendance. My schedule was thwarted by an amorous cocktail waitress at happy hour, but I have taken care of business.
It happens every once in a while. She probably saw your hair and was attracted to love at first sight.
I have moved on, and then of course I've had a lot of sock work to do.
That's true.
I'm
second place people are depending on you.
I'm working on a lot of socks. I've got socks here for
Farrell, I'll tell you that I had a meeting, an FFPC meeting today, and unprompted, FFPC co-founder Alex Kaganovsky brought it up because he was watching one of the streams. He thinks the socks for second place are an excellent idea.
If Alex thinks it's excellent, then yes. I have had one moment of shared greatness in my life, and I will strive to share the next one.
So speaking of shared greatness, what about John Daigle here? This is the buzz in the chat room right now with what he did in the second round. He gets Bijan Robinson, obviously at the 103 tonight, but then he goes and gets Amari and Hampton tonight at the 210. Amari and Hampton's ADP in the FFPC Best Ball Tournament, which by the way, you can register for now at myffpc.com. $300,000 grand prize, $100,000 runner-up prize this year. Drafts going both live and slow. Check that out at myffpc.com. The ADP in that for Hampton is all the way down at running back 15 at the 402. Daigle says, screw that. I'm taking him as running back 9 at the 202. Two full rounds earlier, Farrell. This is a guy who is getting his guys in John Daigle tonight.
He punched the wrong player. And we all make mistakes when we're sometimes working. But
I don't think so.
That's exactly what he did. He punched the wrong player. And Terp, I joined Terp and I was listening to – and Terp, everything you said about the other tight ends is incorrect. Everything you said about Brock Bowers is wrong. Brock Bowers should continue to shoot up the boards because Brock Bowers – and I've had some – I want to give you a number. I've had 4 NFL players tell me, unrelated and across different spectrums of activity, that Brock Bowers is the best football player they've ever seen.
I love Brock Bowers.
Yeah, well, I love him at 2. I won't draft him at 1, but I love him at 2. And anyone that is in business with Brock Bowers is in business with a difference maker. But everything else you said about those other tight ends that are going to catch 50 or 60 passes are correct. That's a classic case of overpaying. And you know what? It guarantees that you get talked about by Balky. And that's something that's very valuable.
I'll put a bow on the Bowers versus McBride conversation.
Is that any different than putting a pin in it?
Technically, I'll be putting a pin in it because I feel like this is not the last conversation we're going to have about Bowers versus McBride this year. I'll just say this, guys. It may just come down to if you're drafting in the top 4 or top 5, you're going to take Bowers if you want to take an early round tight end. If you're drafting in the back half of the first round and you want to take an early round tight end, then McBride makes the most sense there, unless you want to try for Kittle on the way back too. The other thing you do is if you're in the top 5 spots, technically you could skip Bowers and then try to get George Kittle in the 2nd or 3rd. That could happen.
But he's been moving. He's been moving. He doesn't make, if you're in the top 5 in this draft, he doesn't make it back. Like,
it's true.
Yeah, that's true. He did not tonight. So
he's definitely a guy that I feel like, if Jennings has some holdout issues, if Pearsall's not 100%, I have a feeling that Kittle, by the time we drafted at Paris in Vegas, I got a feeling that Kittle can continue to move up because, like, Ladd McConkey, Thomas, I'm not saying they're stale right now, but, like, they're not like the names that are getting moved up draft boards right now.
What do you like about Kittle so much in his performance this year? I am willing to learn and listen.
I don't really have that much George Kittle, personally. I like the receivers that are being drafted around this range over him. I'm more of a wait a little bit down the road tight
That
end
was
guy
not
this
the
year.
question. The question was, what do you love about George Kittle to make?
I mean,
Because
he's
I
prob-
love him too.
He's probably my favorite football player that's
Yes.
non-Eagle. I mean, the guy is an absolute warrior. He plays the game
Yes,
right.
he is a warrior, but he is not a.
But
He's
But
not.
he blocks too much. Injuries are a question. But, I mean, you can paint the picture that he's tight end 1 this year.
We have some of the greatest. We have some of the greatest 49er fans ever in the history of football. In one, Drew Maselli participating. Where's Drew drafting Balky?
Sean
He's
Green,
in the 2 spot tonight.
Where
Bowers? He took Bowers in the 2 spot.
Oh, so he was the Bower. Well, see, I didn't even know that. But when we examine the 49ers and we look at what happened last year, it was great between the 20s and it was terrible in the red zone, even with Kittle. It's a situation. I mean, even the kicker, God forbid, he gets outside 40 yards, he misses everything. This is not the same team it was. Is Kittle going to lead this team, and who else is going to bring them back? Who else is going to bring them back for the kind of offense that we need to have out of all that fantasy value that exists in the 49er lineup? I think all of it is a bit overpriced. Sadly, I have to say the same thing about Kittle. Terp, am I ridiculously wrong?
I don't have that much Kittle early on. I'm not.
You've already said that. Terp. What I want to know is if I'm wrong.
I don't think you're wrong at all. I mean,
Okay.
I'll click the button. I'm not afraid to click the button because I do see the path where he gets there. But I won't click the button over some of these receivers and probably like a player like definitely not over A-Chain and definitely probably not over Bucky Irving.
Guys, I want to add some flavor from John Daigle on his X account. He posted this about 5 hours before he drafted Omari and Hampton at the 2:10 tonight. This is from John Daigle at not J Daigle on X. Omari and Hampton is inevitably going to skyrocket in ADP after Jim Harbaugh stated today he doesn't know if Najee Harris will be back for training camp. This is interesting that Harbaugh said this today. And I think we see the reason why Daigle goes and grabs his guy at hand. He could be right. And honestly, when people see this, watching the stream, say, wow, Daigle took Hampton at the 2:10 tonight, Daigle could be partially responsible for a spike in ADP in the FFPC with Omari and Hampton. Daigle and obviously Jim Harbaugh as well. So I think that's we're connecting the dots here and finding out what happened with that selection tonight. Let's go back, guys. I want to go back to that Brian Thomas pick. I think it was Scott Hoyt in the FFPC YouTube chat said that was good value for the Go Bills guys. Getting Brian Thomas to pair with Ashton Genty there tonight. Brian Thomas normally goes at the 204, so it's slightly below ADP. But Terp, what do you make of Brian Thomas now contending for targets in that Jacksonville offense? Although Liam Cohen will be the OC there this year, what do you make of him contending for targets with Travis Hunter, the guy that they gave up a boatload for to trade up to draft in this year's NFL draft?
It's definitely a little bit of a worry, but I love Brian Thomas. I mean, coach already came out, saying a lot of positive things, how the offense is going to run through him. I believe that. I know they traded a bunch for Travis Hunter, but there's so much unknown with Travis Hunter right now. Like, do I ever see him being the alpha in that offense? I don't. Brian Thomas is that guy. Obviously, you have a little bit of a worry about injury risk with Brian Thomas, but I don't worry about that stuff. The talent's there. He's I probably would draft Brian Thomas right after CeeDee Lamb personally. That's how much I like him. I love that offense. I love Trevor Lawrence. I've been very outspoken on Trevor Lawrence this offseason. I really think the Jaguars take that next step, where Lawrence really gets to that potential that most people thought he was going to have when he came out. Liam Cohen, I thought was a slam dunk hire. You do worry, you've seen it all over, where these guys get hired after big years as offensive coordinators and they fall flat. So it's definitely in the range of possibilities where it's a possibility, but I don't see it.
With Lawrence, it's if not now, when? And you've got
if it's not now, I mean, he has tons of weapons. And when it comes to a young running back in Tootin, ETN's still there. Brown they just brought in. Obviously Travis Hunter, obviously Brian Thomas. Strange is a solid tight end. the Jaguars have plenty of weapons to get there. It all starts with Trevor Lawrence, and
It's got to turn that clock back, baby. It's got to be 2022 again.
If it's not now for Trevor Lawrence, he's probably on his way out. He might get another year, but that's probably it when it comes to Trevor
Lawrence.
My
God, if he changed locations and went somewhere else and blossomed into what he could be, wouldn't that be a tragedy?
I mean, anything's possible. I mean, Baker Mayfield, different type of situation, but I mean, look how it worked out for him in Tampa Bay.
It did work out nicely. Hey, Balky, have you talked about my girl Stacy Perez tonight?
I was just about to because Steph Miller chimed in on her spot getting T. Higgins at 305. So I thought that was nice value too. Higgins is kind of a conundrum because we know when he's at his best, he could be the best number 2 wide receiver in the league. Obviously, Jamar Chase is the number 1 there in Cincy. But we know he's going to miss games too. What's crazy is he missed games last year and he still was like a top 25 receiver. He missed like 4 or 5 games, which is crazy. And I like what Stacy did here too. Like you're talking about winning first place. You're talking about winning, listen, we could all use a pair of socks, obviously, but she's getting her guys here. And to get T. Higgins, and I don't even know if Stacy likes T. Higgins. I shouldn't say that. But I know that she recognizes the upside with Higgins here. So getting him at the 305 tonight represents a huge boon in trying to win first place. So I like that pick for sure. What do you make of the rest of her team with Barkley in London, and she's about to be on the clock, Farrell?
That's what I would have done early with Barkley. I would have pulled the trigger there. Turp probably wouldn't, but I would. And we had commentators last night that came in that were drafting. And one of the gentlemen said that he viewed Drake London as some of the best talent in the league and for this draft. And if you're ever going to, he's in the Trevor Lawrence Turp rule, if not now, when. She cut her teeth. Her first high-stakes fantasy football event was when she came to the KFFSC in Cincinnati. And, for full disclosure, Stacy somewhere, I mean, we're related. She's my mother's niece and great niece. I don't know. But she's a lovely person, and she's a talented person, and she's run with this.
She sure is. She's great.
She's run with this fantasy football hobby as quickly and as far as a girl can, and I'll be damned, she just stacked it up. I'm liking it more all the time.
Yeah, Joe Burrow in the 4th to go with T. Higgins here to be interesting to see what she does. She could get obviously she's not going to get Chase or Chase Brown, but it'd be interesting to see what she does with a certain tight end or maybe another receiver here later on in the draft to really get that Bengal stack going.
Hey, Turp, Rubio came in with something, and Rubio says Trevor Lawrence is a coach killer. I think the coaches Trevor's had been dead already.
I mean,
I believe they were dead before Trevor. Yeah,
it's definitely Trevor Lawrence like this year is like so important for the rest of his career because the talent's there. They did everything possible to get Travis Hunter. They traded probably too much to get him. Brian Thomas coming off a big-time year pretty much without Trevor Lawrence playing. I mean, he doesn't have any more excuses built in anymore. Those are done. So I think Trevor Lawrence is a great pick this year, but it's possible if he doesn't figure it out above, the brain cells, if they all don't click, talent's there. It's just can he figure out the rest of the game, and that's where the question is.
True.
It's the same question I have with Caleb Williams. Same type of situation.
This guy, I must be the Trevor Lawrence fan in this show tonight because last year he gets hurt, but the 2 years before that he threw for 20+ touchdowns, which granted isn't awesome, but it was 4,000 yards both those years, and he gets Liam Cohen this year. If you look at, and I don't have this in front of me, and you guys are going to call me out and say, "Bulk, you're making this up." I'm not making this up. You would be surprised how often he finished as a top 12 quarterback. In 2022 and 2023. 2021, obviously, I believe that was his rookie year, right? And he was not good then.
You're 100% right. I love Trevor Lawrence this year. He's one of my highest owned quarterbacks.
Okay, so that's my point, Terp, is like I feel like this belief that he's not been good is because we view number 1 overall picks as having this higher bar to get over. And Lawrence has not been able to ascend to that bar. Well, now you're talking about because people believe that, and myself included over the past couple of years, this year, not so. Quarterback 18, guys. He is the 18th quarterback going right now. I just feel that's fantastic value for him. Herbert, May, McCarthy, Goff are all going in front of him. He's just ahead of Love. He's just ahead of Stroud. I'm a fan of Lawrence this year, and I think he gets it done.
You can't go wrong at 18. Balky, do you think that it's a bit out of character and a bit off of center that Terp is so agreeable this year in these. We got to examine that because last night he wore some sort of peace neck sweatshirt, and he's very, very agreeable. And
that's not always true. I might be agreeable on this, but I was just on a stream with JD drafting a best ball draft, and I said on the stream that the team that picked directly next to us was the worst best ball team I ever seen drafted. Yeah. So when that airs, that guy's probably going to see it and be like,
they're going to say that's Terp being Terp. And that's what the people have paid for.
Second receiver
free, but in reality, they paid.
If you're going to war with Keon Coleman as your wide receiver too. Hey, maybe you know more than the rest of the world. But
Keon,
that team stinks.
How many besides or after Coleman, Terp? How many receivers did that guy draft?
I don't think he took another one to like the 13th or 14th round. So you could picture some of the dreck he was putting together. It helped us because we were picking 2, but it was.
Look at that first running back in the 5th round for team 2.
Yeah, we got the Masellis, Drew and Josh Maselli right now. Skip running back until the 5th round where they get Chuba Hubbard to go with Lamar Jackson, Brock Bowers, A.J. Brown, and Terry McLaurin. Farrell, what do you make about Terry McLaurin not reporting today? Is this a non-story? They're going to figure it out?
Please get it done, and yes, I hope so. And that's a general manager that's got to deliver that deal. So this has to happen. It needs to happen soon.
You got to figure it out. I mean, they have a quarterback that's free right now. I mean, you got to do everything possible to get as many weapons around him as possible.
Maybe it's more about language than money. I don't know. I said I was going to make some phone calls. I didn't get a chance to. I'll make more phone calls, and we'll have more of an answer next week. But by then, it's probably not to be a non-story because you probably already.
Real quick before we keep going. So far through 5 rounds, and I've looked at all the drafts that we've done so far. Mm-hmm. There's one team here that I think is clear-cut above any team that's been drafted so far through 5 rounds.
Oh, wow. Of any of the pros versus Joe's draft.
Any of the pros versus Joe so far. I really, really, a great value that fell to him, all things considered, based off where he's going, and just an overall well-drafted team. So far, a lot of draft left.
But go ahead and spell it.
Team 1, the boys, the deep ends.
Yeah.
Marvin Harrison falling where he fell. Ted McMillan has been going consistently. We just took him in the 4th round 3 hours ago. So he's starting to move up draft boards to get him where he fell. I don't know how you could say anything negative about Team 1 so far. I mean, Garrett Wilson, who should get 9,000 targets, and Jonathan Taylor with Daniel Jones, and obviously Jamar Chase. I love their start. I mean, obviously, they're friends of mine, so I'm a little biased, but it's really, really hard not to love what they've done so far.
Marvin Harrison goes normally at the 312 in the FFPC.
I mean, it's ridiculous. Tournament. I mean,
it is a full round of value. We had Steph Miller already chime in that was a nice turn for Mike Schopp and Adam Krautwurst there. Chase, Wilson, Harrison, McMillan, JT is the running back there. We'll see what happens and how they build it going forward. Guys, I want to bring us back. I know we're in the 5th round. I'm going to go back to the 4th round here real quick. Farrell, I'll pitch this to you, and Terp, I want you to weigh in on this. The Achievers posted on YouTube that they were surprised that Ben Gretsch and Sean Siegel, the Stealing Bananas guys, drafting from the 9-hole tonight, they're surprised that they did not take Xavier Worthy. And I know Sean is a big Xavier Worthy fan. And they eschew him. They let him go to the Go Bills guys, and they take JSN. Steph Miller said if JSN wasn't there, Worthy would have been the pick, at least for her. Farrell, what would you have done faced with a JSN versus Xavier Worthy conundrum here tonight, like the Stealing Bananas guys were at 404?
I'm glad I didn't have to make that decision. Yeah, and next week they would do it differently. It's and I understand the choice, and let's see how they build the team. It looks like we're stacking up some Seattle, so I like that for this format. So, yeah, there's certainly nothing wrong with that pick over Worthy. Worthy might be a little more exciting to watch, though.
Yes, and that's my point too. Well, not my point, but I think that goes with what I'm about to say here. Terp, I think with the return of Rachi Rice, and I think it was Scott Hoyt was asking us to weigh in on how long the suspension is going to be. I really have no idea. I don't know what
nobody knows.
Totally. The crystal ball. I've got a crystal ball over
there. So I don't know what's going to happen. But I do know for the majority of the season, as long as Rice is healthy, he's going to be playing for Kansas City. I'm worried that Xavier Worthy goes back to a traditional lid lifter. He joins Hollywood Brown as the field flippers with Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce taking care of the possession stuff in the first 10 yards past the line of scrimmage. And if that's the case, I don't know if I would take him when I have a guy in Smith and Jigba who crushed it last year. Granted, with Ryan Grubb, who they got rid of because he passed too much. They want to run more this year. I still think Smith and Jigba is going to be a huge focus of that offense. So I would still go JSN over Xavier Worthy there if that's the choice for me. Terp, you want to make it a clean sweep? Is that how you would do it as well?
Yeah, slightly though. I don't think it's easily like an easy pick. I think I would take both of them and be happy about it. Slight lean toward JSN just because he's pretty much the only guy there. And yeah, they're not going to run the ball a lot, but they're not a good team. I don't trust Sam Darnold. So at the end of the day, I feel like the coaching staff's smart enough to figure out a way to get JSN the ball all over the field. Hopefully that's out of the slot. I've heard some rumors of him moving outside a little bit, and people think that could work out for him. Put the guy in the slot. That's where he's the best at. I know Cooper Kupp's there. He's kind of muddy everything up, but it's JSM, but it's not anything convincingly. I'm a Worthy fan. I think that Andy Reid's smart enough to realize that he is an extremely talented player, and he's going to get him the ball as much as possible, especially if Rice misses 4 games. Even if it's 2 games, whatever it is. I feel like Worthy last year was just a rookie. He didn't really know everything. He's more of, like you said, like a field stretcher type of thing. I don't think it's going to be the same player this year. I feel like he's going to take the next step as a wide receiver and really, really, really could take off. But it's still JSM by a little bit for me.
And Sean Green posted on YouTube tonight. Of course, Sean Green, a guy who was in this competition last year, he says, "I want to believe Kansas City actually takes the top off this season." Was it Worthy or Rice or somebody said, maybe I think it was actually Hollywood Brown said that Andy Reid told him, get your hamstrings ready because they want to throw the ball down the field this year. And they're going to have 2 guys who are healthy right now to be able to do that as well.
And a healthy quarterback.
Now, how he's kept upright along that line. I know, Terp, were you talking about this with me with Josh Simmons, the left tackle?
Yeah.
That they drafted. That's going to help. They did trade Tooney to the Bears, so we'll see what happens there. Go ahead.
Don't forget the running game that's extremely questionable. I mean, there's a bunch of guys. Nobody really knows who's going to be the guy. Pacheco's being drafted as the guy.
He will be.
Smith is the sexy name. You got Mitchell there. You got Kareem Hunt there. There's a lot of questions at the running back position. But my thing is always the fear with the Chiefs is if they open it up, all these guys are just going to be smashed, ridiculous values. Kelce.
And Joe King asked a good question. How did KC get better? They got healthy.
They got healthy, and also they always have the plan to figure it out. It always works out for them doing what they do. They don't have to open it up.
That's right.
We all want them to open it up.
Yeah, sure.
Why would they change what they're doing? They're always, almost a Super Bowl team every year. So why would they start opening up and throwing the ball around the field when they don't have to?
Somebody said that about Philadelphia's running game last night. Who it was?
Tom Brady for years in New England would just live on this intermediate stuff, and he never really had to throw downfield. So it can be done. And, I'm not comparing Tom Brady to Patrick Mahomes here, but plenty of other people are. So I'll just leave it at that. Guys, Rubio and I can't remember who the other, I think it was Sean Green said, that Terp, you end up liking these receiver heavy squads. Do you feel like you have a blind spot with that where like anybody who's drafting early receivers, you tend to like those squads?
Early, yes. I mean, I just really like the structure of certain teams when they have like these top-notch receivers because, there's some receivers that, I like and everybody else likes in these 7th, 8th, 9th rounds, but I feel like that's a better place, a better pocket where you can pick up running backs. Guys like, RJ Harvey who's falling. There's a bunch of other guys that are going to come off a board here, like the Travion Hendersons of the world, the Hubbards of the world. I love those picks. They all make a ton of sense, based off structures. But, when it comes to the structures I love, receivers are especially early ones because all those guys that he picked are all clear-cut number ones on their team. I know Trey McBride's there. I get it. I get all that. But Marvin Harrison should get a ton more look. I mean, Kyler Murray's the question. Can you get him the ball?
You're just in love with that Marvin Harrison, and I think you should be.
I won't quit it.
You're taking it way too far out there. You've got to catch 150 balls.
I won't quit it.
But I will. Who asked the question about Terp and the receivers?
Sean Green and Rubio.
Sean Green and Green should know because he's a confidant of everyone here. The reason that you like the receiver teams, Terp, is that you are made for Kentucky rules. You just refuse to embrace your destiny. And that's the problem with you, that you've got to work out on your own sometime this decade. But that's why you like all the yellow on the board. You're a little jaundiced.
I can't respond to that. I have no.
Well, no, you can't respond to
You win.
You have been exposed, discovered, and
I usually always have something to say back. I have nothing to say.
Yeah, you have nothing to say.
You win. You win.
Terp, Tetero and McMillan. Sean wants to know what kind of numbers we're predicting for him this year. McMillan was the 501 pick for the deep end guys who are coming back on the clock here shortly. What do you project for him year one in the NFL with a guy in Bryce Young throwing to him who really came into his own at the end of 2024?
Bryce Young looked good at the end of the season. I obviously trust the coach. He has a very, very good pedigree when it comes to number one receivers. They really like McTet. They really his last name. I always butcher his first name. I'm not even going to try that. So they always love Tat McMillan. They drafted him extremely high. They put a lot of draft capital into him, and realistically, there's nobody else there. So I could easily see a double-digit touchdown season for him. A big target share. I mean, there's really nobody else there. Like Zabler, Adam Thielen, guys like that are serviceable, but tight end position, nothing. Is he capable of being a number one receiver? You could say the jury's still out there. But I got a feeling they're going to give him every chance to be that guy. And where he's being drafted, he could be a league winner if Carolina and Bryce Young take that next step.
Sean, to answer that question, at least my answer, I'd say 75 catches, 900 yards, 7 touchdowns. That's what I'd look for McMillan this year. Okay, guys, where did I want to go with? So Terp. I think you brought up a good point, and we'll see what the deep end guys do here. But regarding the types of receivers that they took, Chase, Wilson, Harrison, Teteroa McMillan, all expected to be the number one receivers on their team. Now, if you look at the hooks, which is Ben and Randall Hook, the FFPC Joes at the 10 spot, and you look at Matt Schauf at the 11, they also went receiver heavy in the first part of their draft. But look at who Hooks took. Collins, who's the number one guy. Adams, probably the number 2. Jamison Williams, number 2 receiver. Zay Flowers, number 1 receiver, but you still have Mark Andrews there as well, kind of gumming up the works. Maybe I'm cheating when I say that, but I'll just bring that up. And then you look at Schauf, number 1 in Nakua. Rashee Rice, is he the number 1? Maybe not to start the season. Maybe he becomes it. Mike Evans is the number 1. Devonta Smith is the number 2. So I guess for those squads, I guess you could make the case that, look, I like the deep ends better because they have all these number 1 receivers, Jerry Jeudy included, who they just took right here at the 6-12, where these other guys are littered with number 2 or not all number 1 options, right?
100%. I mean, I like Team 10's receivers over Team 11's receivers personally. Jameson Williams, I love this year. Devontae Adams, I get he's the number 2, but he could easily be the number 1 there. Nico Collins, we don't really say much about him, and obviously getting the tight end position with Trey McBride helps. Team 11, I don't hate the guys. The Devonta Smith is just, I love the player, but you got to believe in Eagles passing game for him to, really warrant where he's being drafted. And Mike Evans, one of these years he's got to go down, right?
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't. You're 100% right. That's why, he's not a sexy pick. He's not a people are pounding the table for, but he always gets it done.
Boy, it sure is fun and sexy when he catches 40-yard touchdowns when you need it.
100%. And he loves that 1-yard touchdown. It just tweaks people like myself because you always have the Rashad. The 1-yard Baker Mayfield to Mike Evans touchdown, if you don't own him, is one of the most tilting things in fantasy football. I don't know if anybody agrees with that, but you think it's always going to be a running back. Usually receivers are never on the field then. Mike Evans does that 3 or 4 or 5 times a week.
There's a first for everything. I'll agree with you. Guys, team number one. Now I think Krautwurst and Mike are just showing off. They're just showing off.
Nothing negative to say.
Yeah,
Jerry Jeudy, number 1 receiver, and Mark Andrews, number 1 receiver. Realistically.
Yeah, but, you've got to put up some points at running back. And do you guys believe I'd like to understand what Jonathan Taylor's going to do this year. I'd like to see some numbers.
I'm not a numbers guy. People always ask me for numbers. I'm not a numbers guy.
Well, you got to be, Terp, because that's how you need to decide who you're going to draft. That helps. Now, the way they look and move and all that's part of it, But if you're going to take a running back over another running back, like we were talking JSN and Worthy, it's a toss up. It's about style and
Jonathan Taylor's a wild card because if Anthony Richardson's a quarterback, I will draft 0 of Jonathan Taylor. That's why it's hard to where he's being drafted.
I got a feeling that he will be the quarterback. That's what I'm saying. These guys could use a green sticker. I don't care who it is.
They definitely could use a green sticker, but there's no way I'm taking Isaiah Pacheco over Judy or Mark Andrews. DeAndre Swift, maybe, but I feel like the upside trying to win with Judy and Andrews is higher.
I think Team 2 got a real gift when Pacheco became available, and I like him better than Aaron Jones. Now, I'm in the minority there, but I like him better.
Guys, join me in the middle of the draft board here. Rob Vieira's team at the 6 hole. He just added his second receiver in Jordan Addison. What does Jordan Addison have in common with the first receiver that Rob drafted? It's Justin Jefferson. Jefferson and Addison, and I believe that, and Rob, I know he may not be watching this right now. I'm sure he'll go back and watch it later. I could be wrong. I think Rob is a Vikings fan. Don't quote me on that. But before we get into that, what do you make of, we talk about all these other teams drafting receivers early. Vieira's just stacking up Kittle, Engram, Chase Brown, and James Conner. He gets Jalen Hurts in there as well. What do you make, Farrell, of the approach of letting everybody else take receivers in the first 6 rounds while he stacks up not 1 but 2 tight ends and gets a couple of potentially monsters at running back there as far as their workload goes this year?
No, we're talking about Team 6.
Team 6, correct.
Now, the quarterback question eliminates with Jefferson, but it lives with Addison, and that's why I don't think I would have done that. He must know some receivers that he likes, and they're still out there, and I like them too. And I would defer until we get into the double-digit rounds to see who he puts on this team. But I'm a little baffled by it.
Terp, let me bring this up regarding Hurts, and I'll let you weigh in on this. The pick for Rob Vieira tonight, the FFPC Joe at the 407 as the 4th quarterback off the board. Last year, Hurts ended up throwing for just 2,900 yards, which is extremely low.
Disgusting.
It was disgusting. He did, however, top 600 yards rushing, and he got into the end zone 14 times. That is his 4th consecutive year with double-digit rushing touchdowns. Last year, as far as touchdowns through the air, he only threw 18 of them. If we are to believe that the Eagles' ground game is either going to keep up what they did last year, or they're going to take a step back and let passing become more prevalent with Philly, with Brown and Smith and Goddard, isn't Jalen Hurts the one guy that wins no matter what the scenario is for the Eagles this year?
Yes, 100%. There's no downside to Jalen Hurts.
The Terpy was I think this is right, Balky, and you might have to fact check me on this, but he was number 9 in fantasy points last year amongst FFPC quarterbacks. And if he improves, he's not moving past a lot of these other guys because they've got a chance to improve as well. That's all I'm saying. Would you rather have Burrow than Hurts?
I mean, I'm only drafting Joe Burrow if I have Jamar Chase or T. Higgins.
Okay, but okay, so that's a quality.
If you're saying one versus one,
yes,
I'm probably taking Burrow.
Yeah, I would go Hurts. I would go Hurts over Burrow.
I don't think it's like a. I mean,
and I love it. I think it's a bigger commentary on what the Masellis did in round 2 because Terp just said it. Garrett Wilson, and then there's Tyreek Hill, and then there's T. Higgins. And I like all those guys better than A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown is a fantastic football player. It's 2,900 yards in that passing attack. A 10% bump, a 20% bump, we get to 3,500 yards. It's still very ordinary.
Farrell, I have Jalen Hurts as quarterback 6 in the FFPC list.
I stand corrected, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so the thing is with Burrow and how you treat him, at the point I would be looking at drafting him, I'm going to know whether I have Chase. I'm going to know whether I have Higgins, and that will affect how I draft him. Now, I can't speak for Stacy, but if she did not have T. Higgins there, I wonder if she lets Burrow go to somebody else.
No shot she takes him.
I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. So that's the thing is we always try to get in the minds of these drafters, and maybe one or two of them will join us tonight.
And none of them are calling in, Balky. Did you not share the number?
I did, but here's the thing, and I said this last night, and Terp and I talked about this at the top of the show.
You left me out of that.
This is as talented pros and Joes. I mean, I said this last night. Tonight was going to be a bloodbath.
Yeah.
There's no weaknesses here. It's 12 sharks, and really it's more than that because we have multiple sharks running multiple teams here. It's
the pros in this event all lay down their money to play fantasy football. That makes them Joes, which makes them dangerous.
It is crazy how all these drafts are all different. None of them are the same.
Yeah.
They're all, you just see like guys being drafted around 2 rounds different in all these drafts. We talked about Marvin Harrison earlier. Like he hasn't fell this far in any draft I've seen in the last 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
So to get a value like this in a draft like this that we thought was going to be extremely hard, clearly all these other people don't like Marvin Harrison either. Like all these people who took, the Xavier Worthies, the DK Metcalfs, the DJ Moores, all these quarterbacks, all these running backs. Like it's interesting.
I have a question for all you guys.
Fire away.
Go for it. I like questions.
There's 2 of you. Christian McCaffrey. Is he on the don't draft list or is he on the draft list? And if you draft him in front of Henry, you're thinking that you're going to get McCaffrey for what he's supposed to be, the full season of receptions, that you're going to basically turn back the clock. But as McCaffrey, Balky, you're drafting maximum teams down here. Terp will tear it up at the FFPC at Perez in Las Vegas. How many McCaffrey teams are you guys going to have?
Well, here's the thing. I'm glad you asked this because this is probably going to help me make up my mind on this. Okay. I've drafted him a couple of times so far. I have drafted mostly from the front end of drafts, so I haven't really had the opportunity to take him in a whole lot of spots. I have said on these airwaves multiple times, at the NFL, it's a young man's game. The older you get, the more difficult it becomes to be successful. And a lot of times when I take a chance on these veterans and it doesn't pay off because they get hurt, and McCaffrey obviously coming off a big-time lost season last year, I'm just kicking myself. Why did I do this? Why did I do this to myself to draft a guy who was already having injury problems when he was younger, and now he's a year older, and I take him again at the 1-2 turn? I'm going to attribute this to Ben Gretsch. I don't know if he said this. I think it was him. And I think he was talking about McCaffrey. And he said, sometimes when you're playing in these tournaments, and obviously you're just trying to beat 11 people here, but you do get the overall title belt if you beat everybody. But for a lot of people watching, they are playing in the Big Gorilla. They're playing in the KFFSC Main Event. They're playing in the FFPC Main Event. They're playing in the FFPC Best Ball tournaments where you have to beat out hundreds, if not thousands of people, right, to win. And I think Ben Gretsch said this with the idea in mind of drafting McCaffrey in a big tournament. Sometimes you shouldn't be asking yourself, well, what happens if this guy gets hurt? You should be asking yourself, well, what happens if this guy doesn't get hurt? Mm-hmm. And I think that changes the conversation about McCaffrey, because if he doesn't get hurt, you're talking. Where was Barkley going last year? Early second round?
Yes.
He was in the third round of some drafts in the middle of July.
So this is my point. Like, I'm not saying McCaffrey's going to be this year's Barkley, but I'm just saying, like, for a guy who has shown us enough in fantasy football over the course of his career, where he was the de facto 101 multiple times over, and you could get him at the end of the first or the early second. What happens if he stays healthy all year? Yeah. And that's sort of the thing that I'm kind of talking through in my head right now when I'm on the clock and McCaffrey's available at the 111 or the 202 or the 203.
Damn, I should ask more questions. Terp, you can't top that. Just don't.
That was Ben Gretsch.
That was impressive. That was
everything Ben said, everything Balky said. I draft as much Christian McCaffrey as I can, pretty much for that exact reason. I don't really worry about the injury stuff. I know we talk about it every once in a while, but I know what Christian McCaffrey can do, and if he stays healthy, he will do that. There's really no way. There's really no way around that.
The genius that is Bill Hollywood just came in here with something very, very good.
You could always handcuff them. You could always the Guarendos, the James, anybody there is fine to pick up. You saw what happened last year with Jordan Mason, small doses.
If you want to look at an injury history, go look at Guarendo, and then you'll say, "Oh my God, I got to back him up. I got to handcuff Guarendo too."
Everybo's taking Ashton Genty over Christian McCaffrey, and that's a popular little pocket right there. To me, it's Christian McCaffrey almost 100% of the time.
That was
impressive. And I don't hate Ashton Genty at all. And I'm not. But what we're talking about a Raiders offense that Geno's there, Chip Kelly's there. I get all that stuff, but there's too many questions there. And obviously, outside of injuries for Christian McCaffrey, if he stays healthy for 17 games, let's say 15 games, whatever, give me all the Christian McCaffrey I can get and wheels up. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But in these tournament settings where you're trying to win $1 million, you're trying to win your league, there's not many players like Christian McCaffrey that are sitting at the end of the first round in the second round in some of these drafts.
Derrick Henry, would you rather have Derrick Henry or McCaffrey?
McCaffrey.
Okay. Is there a first round running back that you like Henry better than?
No,
not for me. No.
Maybe Ashton Genty, but that's probably about it. But that I probably would take Genty I would take A-Chain over everybody. I mean, I would probably take Devon A-Chain over everybody but Bijan Robinson, and that might be the end of it.
Okay.
Just regarding what I said earlier with Ben Gretchen, and this is going to be hilarious if Ben never said this or wrote this because we're attributing.
We're giving him all the credit for it, so it's out there now.
But Teague Orgman, and Teague, I think I'm getting your name right. I could be wrong on this. He says Gretchen's right. Should be playing very aggressively in the main event or Big Gorilla. And how would Teague know this? Because Teague was the guy that dethroned the Go Bills guys after 2 consecutive years by winning the 2023 FFPC main event. Awesome that we get FFPC royalty hanging out, more FFPC royalty hanging out, watching the broadcast tonight. Thanks for hopping aboard, Teague. Team 9, let's talk about them right now. This is the Stealing Bananas squad. They're on the clock right now. People were talking in the chat room, not understanding the strategy, and obviously on the next time that these guys hook up on a Stealing Bananas podcast, I'm sure they'll talk about this here. But you look at what they've done at tight end, Farrell, Hawkinson in the 5th, and now back-to-back tight ends. They went Tyler Warren and Tucker Kraft at the 7-8. They only have the 2 receivers, Neighbors and Smith and Jigba, which granted could be target monsters. Nobody else is zig. Everybody else is zagging, and they're zigging here with the tight ends, Hawkinson, Warren, and Kraft. I could see it working. And if you're trying to be different and you're trying to win first, there certainly is a path here. But even I'm kind of scratching my head in the tight end premium league that you want to have 3 of them by the end of round 8, Farrell.
I love tight ends, but these are 3 of the same guys. And the tight end whisperer debunked a little bit of the Tucker Kraft last night. And we've had a series of podcasts on Friday night that we can't get anyone that joins me in the I Hate Tucker Kraft Club. And but I
love Tucker Kraft.
Yeah, see, there you go. You
want to
yeah, go for it.
Tucker Kraft for me.
Tell me. I'm going to look at all your teams to see how much Tucker Kraft you've got. But you take
top
those
3 tight end for me right now.
These guys need a receiver. And Khalil Shakir.
Wait, hold on. I got to stop you, Farrell. I'm sorry. Did you say Tucker Kraft's a top 3 tight end for you?
He said that. Yeah, he did.
I
tried to keep talking.
Exposure wise. I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
No.
I tried to keep talking. He was saying a lot of things, and none of them were correct.
I know, but I'm probably in the minority on this. I know. I just feel
that worries me because I know you're not a big Tucker Kraft guy.
It's not. I think he's a fantastic football player. He's
fantastic football player.
Farrell and I were talking about this on Friday. He's got a smoking hot wife. He's living life the right way right now. Mm-hmm. But I just worry about even with the Packers, coming back and regressing a little bit to being more of a passing team this year. You add Golden, Savion Williams too in the draft. I don't think McCole Hardman makes the team, but they still went out and got him as well. I just don't know. I don't know. I mean, Tucker Kraft in best ball, okay, I get it. He's going to have those spike games. But for anybody in a managed league where you're drafting
way tougher
as a tight end 12 or tight end 13, I mean, I don't know when I'm going to start him or Tyler Warren
and drafted. And drafted right behind him was Khalil Shakir. And after Terp's learned words last night, I've rode back Shakir to 94 catches.
All right, hold on. So a few things from the chat room right now, Farrell. I want to get.
What's going on over there?
Scott Hoyt, Balky always plays Switzerland, always diplomacy. I think for the most part that's true. It's not always true. We got Joe King. I only draft guys with hot wives. But then Bill Hollywood, I try to draft people who aren't married. So listen, we're getting some next level analysis from the YouTube.
Great analysis.
This is good stuff. Joe King also said a 3 tight end start and managed is signing up for coin flips. I'm with him on that. This is best ball, so these guys don't have to worry about it. But with Joe, I'm totally with you. This would be a nightmare trying to figure this out. Now, tight end premium and double flex. Obviously, if you plan on flexing these guys out every week, okay, that's fine. I get
Still
that.
tough. Still tough.
But yeah, it's not an easy thing
Tucker
to do.
Kraft is more of a best ball guy than he is a redraft guy.
Terp, Matt Schauf is on the clock right now. I'm going to try to scroll up to it right now if I can find it, and I may not be able to find it on the YouTube chat right now. If I can get, sorry about that, guys. If I can get back up to it here, there was a comment on Schauf's team. Corey Walters had it here. I got it up. I'm not feeling Team 11 between guys being able to stay healthy and suspensions and being old. Maybe a stack can help him. And he's referring to Draft Sharks Matt Schauf, who, by the way, 20th all-time on the all-time FFPC Pros versus Joe's leaderboard. So he's gotten a lot of stuff right over the years. Speaking of stacks, he just added one here with Hollywood Brown to go with Patrick Mahomes, who we got in the 7th round. Yeah, I mean, McCaffrey and Nakua, certainly injury risks, but again, you're going for first place here. Rice with the suspension. I think the suspension is, I don't know, guys, I keep coming back to it in my head. It's going to be like 3 games. And if I'm without Rice for 3 games, I can deal with it.
You'll
Evans
survive.
and Mixon, not the youngest guys in the world. I like Devonta Smith. Jake Ferguson, I think there's a positive report by one of the beat writers taking in training camp today about Ferguson. You have Travis Etienne at a good value here too. There's question marks, but I could see this working out too. And Schauf obviously knows what he's doing. Terp, I'll let you weigh in. And Farrell, I want you to give your commentary on this squad too. But what do you think of Matt Schauf's team at spot 11 tonight?
I don't necessarily agree with all the players, but the structure of the team is perfect. I mean, there's really nothing negative to say about the overall structure. I mean, getting McCaffrey, we talked about him. Puka, who's kind of stale right now in drafts. Nobody really loves him. Everybody's afraid of Devontae Adams. Are they afraid, is the Rams going to pass the ball enough to warrant both guys where they're being drafted? Rice's suspension, it doesn't scare me away. I mean, if it's 4 games, I'm still fine. If it's 6, then we're in trouble. But
yeah,
I don't think it's going to be that long. And Joe Mixon's not a guy I'm pumping the table for, but he's still a guy that always produces. And then Mike Evans, we talked about. Jake Ferguson's a guy that I've been targeting a lot at the tight end position. I just really love that Dallas passing game between Pickens, Dak, and Jake Ferguson. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb. ETN's, I'm an ETN stan, so I'm going to draft him as much as possible, and then getting the stack with Brown to offset Rice being out. It makes a ton of sense for this kind of contest because you're not really losing anything. When Brown is going to be in there, obviously Rice is a better player, but Hollywood Brown's no slouch. So let's say it's 4 games. You're getting 4 games of Mahomes and Brown, and then you're getting, the rest of Mahomes, Brown, and your 4th round pick Rice. So 3rd round pick Rice. So I think it's a very, very well-structured team. He clearly knows what he's doing. I mean, again, I don't necessarily agree on some of the players that he drafted, but it doesn't really matter. The structure of it's perfect.
Farrell, what do you make of Schauf's squad here? I mean, I think Terp makes a good point about getting Hollywood Brown here to kind of offset a potential Rice suspension. And then it's wheels up after that. What do you make of that and the rest of the squad there?
When Casey Stengel was in front of the Senate subcommittee on the antitrust exemption, and they talked, and he went on and on and on. And Mickey Mantle's response when they asked Mickey Mantle, he said, "Well, just what Casey said," and I'll say just what Terp said. But I will say this: he's drafting old school names, and I love it. He's drafting an old school lineup. He must not be a dynasty player because he doesn't know the rookies. He doesn't engage with the rookies. He needs more tight end. 59 catches and 0 touchdowns won't get it done. Ferguson will do better for him, but he needs more tight end in this format. And I'll be curious to see where that's coming from. But these are some old school cats in here. I'm looking for Tyler Lockett to join this team. I'm looking for Flacco as a backup quarterback. This is an old school team.
Yeah, I mean, we could see Drew Bennett join the squad as well. Of course, you think of Keith Byers would be an excellent 19th, 20th round pick, right, Turp? Keith Byers.
Funky, every time you start talking about these hot wives, but you're not conscious of it. You're actually going back to Moneyball. And I would say,
yeah.
In the words of James Bond, I will say, Balky, you are money and you don't even know it.
Yeah, no, I kid about the hot wives thing. I think everybody, I shouldn't say everybody. I think a lot of people just assume, anybody from the upper Midwest, like, because Tucker Kraft's a South Dakota guy, they just assume we're all married to swamp monsters up here. And
Gary Morgan just says Stacy's mom has got it going on.
Yeah, that's true. She does have it going on.
No.
Stacy's mom has got it going on at number 5.
One word different. You're fine.
Yeah.
Nice.
So guys, the other conversation we had tonight, Nikki Banks points this out on YouTube, the conversation that's going on the stream right now. Shocking to see Chris Godwin go before Emeka Egbuka. After today's news, they should be swapped. So tonight in the draft, we saw Emeka Egbuka rise up about a full round where he normally goes, according to ADP. That Go Bills franchise with Barani, Costantino, and Stutzman grab him at the 908. But this was after Chris Godwin went to the Masellis as wide receiver 44 at the 811. And I believe the news on Godwin today, and I'm going to look it up just so I'm not misquoting it, but I believe that the report was that he had a second ankle surgery, and they don't know if he is going to participate in camp. Like, this is another thing too with Harris. I'm reading it right now. I'm trying to find it here, guys. Okay, while I find it, I'll let you weigh in on it. Farrell, were you surprised to see Godwin go that much earlier than Egbuka, given what we found out today from the Buccaneers?
Early news from training camp is always a little bit puffery, but Godwin is finding that IR, that one game injured, that medical 10 on the sidelines a little too often for me. I'm not saying I would have turned to the other Tampa receiver, but I think maybe I would go shopping somewhere else for Godwin. That really hurts my heart because it's one of the players I most admire in the league.
Okay, so Godwin gets placed on the PUP list today, Terp. Underwent the second procedure on his ankle. Jenna Lane, who covers the Buccaneers, said that that was more of a cleanup procedure and that he's doing well right now. But I think we have to look at this and understand, like, there's a probability here. There's a lot of different outcomes here. And at this point, like, I kind of went away from drafting Chris Godwin, who was my favorite player last year to draft. And I started off drafting season back in the winter, January, February, March, or whatever it was. And I was drafting him again as my number 3 receiver because I believed that he was going to be healthy at the start of the season. And dude, now I'm not so sure. I've been avoiding him, and he might still be in a void until I see him back on the field.
Yeah, go ahead,
Chris Godwin. And I
what do you say, Jeremy? I'm sorry.
I will have 0% Chris Godwin, and that won't change. I said it since the beginning.
How far would he have to fall? How far would he have to fall?
I don't think I could take him at all. I mean, maybe 10th round, 11th round, something like that.
I was just say double-digit rounds.
I might think about it, but I mean, the thing about Chris Godwin is obviously we know about the injury stuff, but it's not like he has scrubs behind him. These guys can easily take this job. Jalen McMillan, Emeka, guys like that. They're not scrubs, and this offense is still going to throw the ball a ton. And obviously, Mike Evans isn't coming off the field, so if they start, getting more acclimated with that offense, and they start, really, as the season starts on, they start really, really pressing, and they do well. I think Chris Godwin could be an afterthought. It's the same stance I have on Brandon Ayuk.
They take advantage of their opportunity. For us in fantasy ball,
it's the same stance I have on Brandon Ayuk. I will have 0% Brandon Ayuk. Number one, Brandon Ayuk wasn't good last year before he got hurt. He was awful out there. He got paid and then stunk. And I know he had injuries and all this cool stuff, and I get that. But then once he got hurt, people were like, Kyle Shanahan already came out. There's no timetable today. Guys like that, if they beat me, they beat me. Yeah, I know you could say, well, they're being drafted at a value that could help you down the season. But to me, in a best ball format, I'm totally out. In a redraft, maybe. with the potential that I could hold a roster spot for him to when they become valuable. But Chris Godwin and Brandon Ayuk, I will not own this year.
Well, let's stay on that Niners thing. So, would you have the same kind of bump with Jennings?
I love Juwan Jennings. He's one of my favorite players in the league.
So, and I'm not sure we've seen the best Jennings it could possibly be. Now, Balky, you talked about Godwin missing camp and how that's a problem. By
the way, just real quick, I think I misspoke on that. I think it was Ayuk. Shanahan said he wasn't sure when he'd be playing in camp. We have not heard that from the Buccaneers and Godwin. Just so everybody's clear on that.
Okay, all right. Well, camp is not what camp used to be.
No,
let's just say that.
Javonte Williams is a star. You saw that piece today that came out, the video of him running through guys with no pads on. Javonte Williams is going to be the next. He's going to start rising in draft boards. Good luck, Javonte. That's a tough part. Preseason's tough, man.
A lot of what happens in camp, and I've said this many times, the superstars are actually the training staff, the medical staff, what they're doing with the players, and what happens with the players in the film room and installing the systems and understanding the games. It's not so much on the field about camp anymore. So just kind of
preseason traps are there, and they're there every year. You're going to see it as training camp really starts opening, and you start seeing these guys, team scrimmages and stuff like that. You're going to see these guys who are getting drafted in the 13th, 14th round getting moved up because they broke away from guys without pads on.
Yeah, looking good in shorts.
It's you can't say it any better. And we see it every year from Marquise Callaway to Terrace Marshall and we can go down the list of names that just rose up draft boards after preseason, pieces of how great they were going to be, and they were just complete flops.
Well, my favorite preseason draft board adjustment was on Jamar Chase, who for some reason people thought that he could no longer catch the ball.
Couldn't catch the ball. Remember last year, Carson Steele. Everybody was like,
the ball in camp on TV. How bad.
It happens every year.
It does work Chase is a good example. It works the other way too. I mean, Puka Nacua, we that was another guy that really gained steam. Positive reporting done on him in training camp in preseason. James Robinson a few years back as well.
It was James Robinson versus, I forget the other guy, Divine.
Divine Ozigbo.
Yeah, it was up until we drafted in Vegas. There was a question of who the guy was going to be, and if you took James Robinson, you were printing money. If you took the other dude, you were drawing dead. And that's really what it comes down to, these ambiguous backfields that are totally, unknown at this point. And there's a ton out there right now. I mean, you look at Jacksonville, you look at Dallas, you look at Chicago in some eyes, New York, the Giants, even the Jets are they going to do a Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery type of situation with Breece Hall and Braylon Allen? There's just a ton of backfields out there that are very, very, very questionable. Washington, nobody knows, they hate Brian Robinson, right? But he's still going to be the guy. Austin Eckler, and then you got some rookie buzz. That's definitely stuff you got to start paying attention to, because you always try to get as many of these guys as possible. Because if you get the right one, you're well ahead of the game.
Look at Team 4's quarterback stacks, fellas.
Farrell, we are going to get to that. I promise.
Okay.
Two things I want to get to before we move on. Number one, Mac Nova, former ESPN researcher to the Stars, he said Raquel Armstead and Divine Ozigbo and James Robinson. It was like a three-way thing, which made it even more confusing for us in Las Vegas. I'm going to present the timeline for Chris Godwin here without context. And maybe this is related, maybe it's not. Week 7 of the 2024 season, hurts his ankle on Thursday Night Football. He's out for the year. March 10th of 2025, he is rewarded with a brand spanking new contract, 3 years, $66 million, $44 million in guaranteed money. That was March 10th. April 24th, which is basically 6.5 weeks later, the Buccaneers use a first-round pick on a Emeka Egbuka. Some would say that these are conflicting signals, right? Or I guess conflicting signals. Others would say, look what happened. Look in the order of these things happening, and that will point you to Emeka Egbuka. Haven't made up my mind on it, but I'm kind of with the majority of the YouTube chat tonight. I think I'm sort of looking at Team Egbuka over Team Godwin at this point until I see something from Chris Godwin. Okay.
Team Jalen McMillan's no slouch either. I mean, he's
Jalen McMillan's another guy that we'll have to be
and
looking at.
he really looked good last year. Everybody's like pretty much ignoring him and pretty much saying he's an afterthought. And I'm not sitting here saying that they're not right in some regard, but if something's out with Godwin, like Baker Mayfield has that rapport with McMillan, and if Emeka, I can't always say what's his last name, Emeka Egbuka, close enough, whatever. It's all the same. I'm terrible at pronunciation.
That's okay.
But if he does,
you don't have to pronounce
wall,
it. You just have to draft it.
If he hits the wall, and I have a ton of them because he was one of my favorite receivers coming out. Why not Jalen McMillan? Jalen McMillan's going like the 15th, 16th, 17th round of some of these drafts. Like, why not?
JJ Zacharyson talks about this all the time, where you have these rookie receivers that often start out slow, but then the second half of the season they really come on. McMillan really came on at the end of the year.
Sure did.
And I'll say this too. Remember, he was part of that trio of Washington receivers that got drafted in 2024. Obviously, Odunze was the guy. He was a top 10 pick. But when it came to McMillan versus Jalen Polk's stats, I think were inflated because McMillan got hurt. He wasn't on the field. McMillan was keeping Polk, almost irrelevant on that offense while he was healthy. And then McMillan gets hurt, and people penalize him for that. And then people penalize him for the start of the season last year, which was not great. Actually, I think he caught a touchdown in the first game or the first two games or something like that. And then he basically disappeared to like week 12 or week 13 or whatever it was. And then he really came on. Farrell, we want to get back to you here. You had a point to make about John Zaleski's squad. 9 rounds he goes without drafting a signal caller, and now he can't stop picking them.
And, based on the way we like these players, that's a good mix. That really is a good mix. And I'm curious about Team 2, when we're going to see some more tight ends, when we're going to see some more quarterbacks. I thought they would have pulled the trigger there. I think wait a minute, their favorite quarterback is gone. But yeah, I Mayfield and Williams and Lawrence, they've got a threat to hit big numbers every week, and it's going to be difficult to predict who it is. But at the end of the season, each one of them may have maybe 5. They may have 5 or 6 games, each one of them, that has provided the scoring at the quarterback position. So I have no problems with this.
Terp, Barney Newkirk, who is watching us on Facebook tonight, no doubt with a Keystone Light in his hand, wants to know what you're drinking tonight.
No alcohol tonight, just water.
Just water. Okay, there you
just
go.
Water.
What a disappointment.
I know.
Farrell's got his bourbon going, I'm assuming, right? You got the wood.
I had the most delicious old-fashioned tonight.
I love old-fashions.
2 of them.
I love old-fashions.
Before making my way over here.
Love a good old-fashioned.
You guys gotta try the Wisconsin old fashioned sometime.
Cheese curds?
No, there's no. You could probably get cheese curds in it. I had a beer a couple of years ago that had cheese curds in the beer.
Oh wow!
And let me tell you,
how did that taste?
Not good. It was the first and last time.
Sounds awful.
Lucky is the Wisconsin old fashioned made with rye. What makes?
No, okay. So the Wisconsin old fashioned, the majority of them, everybody gets them a little bit differently, right? I think most people still get whiskey sour, but you can get whiskey sweet. You can get. We have a big German heritage here, so I always like paying homage to my German heritage by getting a brandy sweet, which I get made fun of. But the mix it's much less potent. They go down like candy. Whereas you go to Kentucky, you go anywhere else, you go to a really nice cocktail bar on the coast or Chicago or whatever, you get an old fashioned that will knock you on your rear end. The Wisconsin old fashioned is designed to have 3 or 4 of them before your fish fry on Friday, and then maybe 1 afterwards as well. You can't do that with like the traditional old-fashioned.
Irish whiskey at 80 proof is your friend, Bucky.
Yes. I'll tell you who else is my friend, and I'm going to bring him on right now, ladies.
Really? A guest?
Yes, we have a guest here, and I want to bring him on. I didn't know if he was going to hop aboard, but he is hopping aboard right now. He is drafting from the 1 spot tonight, along with Adam Krautwurst. You can hear him on WGR 550 in Buffalo. Of course, the Odyssey app, you can listen to him as well. Monday through Friday, 3 to 7 p.m. Eastern time. You've also seen his mug on Ship Chasing, Purple Insider, and, of course, the Deep End Fantasy Football Podcast. You follow him on the X at Schopp Talk. Please welcome in one half of the Deep End Fantasy guys. He is Mike Schopp. Mike, welcome aboard tonight, man.
Somebody said something about what it's like to drink in Kentucky, so I had to jump on.
I figured that it was like a calling card for you on that one. So you and Adam are drafting from the 1 spot tonight. We talked about your team fairly extensively. Terp really liked your start here, and you have filled in the cracks at all the other positions after pounding receiver early, my friend.
we have to, land the plane, so to speak, right? I mean, tight end went to the right. Quarterback, I think maybe we got away with it. Running back, so far I'm okay. When you get to past like round 10, all the tight ends feel like they're the same. So our thinking is just to try to draft 4 or even 5 of them by the end and cross our fingers. But couldn't resist the receiver thirst early.
Do you feel like you're done at any position right now, Mike, or do you think you're going to add at all 4 of them?
No, I don't know what Adam is thinking. I left him to his popcorn for the time being, but I think we'll probably want at least one receiver, maybe to put with May. We still don't really have anybody for Prescott either. And I'd like one more quarterback too. I think there are some interesting options there, but it can't come at the expense of other positions where we are in more trouble.
Mike, the conversation we had earlier about Jonathan Taylor, we were trying to figure out what he's going to do this year, and sort of the consensus that we came to, it kind of depends upon who the quarterback is. When you and Adam decided to make him your first pick of the 3rd round, do you guys have made up in your mind like who you think it's going to be, and that's why Taylor was the pick there, or is it still kind of a nebulous situation for you?
No, we didn't talk about that, and maybe we should have, but we were both going to shock the world and pick Omarion Hampton at 301. and then Daigle went and did it. And then I'm texting with him all day because he wants to know what we're doing at 1. And we went back and forth on that. And then I said, we were going to pick Hampton. He said, I was going to pick Kittle. But he shouldn't have expected to get Kittle.
Right. Yeah.
Really,
Yeah. That would have been a tough get. So
we were expecting to get Hampton.
Yeah. Okay. That's wild. So Mike, I mean, you do a ton of drafts. Like, is this going to be the new normal for Hampton back end of the 2nd round?
That's what people are saying. I don't know different. And until we get some sort of real information on Najee Harris, that isn't just his coach saying, I'm praying for him, and that we hope to have him back by the end of training camp. And, what was interesting about that story is, like Schefter and Rappaport and Tom Pelissero, they all come out with the big news all within seconds of each other because they're all given it. They're not really reporting. They're just handed the news, and it's choreographed. This one, they didn't have it for like 2 weeks. They didn't even know that Harris had been hurt. So it's been weird from the beginning. I think until we find out, if we do, that Najee Harris is actually okay, then that slows the steam down a little bit on Hampton, but it doesn't have to slow it down that much. I mean, he's still a 1st-round pick. Harris isn't good. So I feel like Hampton is probably at his floor right now. I think I would probably guess.
When you, I want to get back to your receivers here, Jerry Jeudy. We talked about the ambiguous situation, the ambiguous quarterback room in Indianapolis. Well, that Cleveland says, "Hold my beer," because they got 4 guys that we just don't know what the heck's going on there. Is Jeudy the type of guy that you could pick at the end of the 6th round and feel pretty good no matter who the quarterback is there, or is there a little trepidation of like, oh God, what if it's Dylan Gabriel or something like that?
I mean, even in his career already, it has gone sideways a little bit. But last year, he so spiked in targets, and I don't know, like Flacco will feed receivers. He's their number 1 easily. And maybe he's a trade target if they're 0-7 or something like that. I mean, he's a former 1st-round pick. So I thought it was worth the gamble there. I mean, we were already pretty good at receiver. I would have liked Olave, I think, the most in that 6th round. But I thought he was worth it. And there really is I don't think I have the stomach for a stack Browns pair. I
don't think anybody does.
No.
Right? It would be Pickett for me, I think, probably, but I don't think we'll end up there. Too many other late round options.
Mike, you're about to be on the clock. Do you have to confer with Adam on this?
No, he's got this.
No matter what.
I told him I was coming to talk to you, so he's going to take this.
Can you let us behind the curtain, like with the guys that you had talked about? Do you think you have a handle on who he's taking here?
I would guess he takes at least one more tight end. There are still a handful of them that who knows. And after that, I don't know. I don't think
unpredictable Krautwurst is you could always bet on that being unpredictable. After you spend how many hours preparing for this with him? He's still unpredictable.
He's
never
good,
know.
though. He's good,
That's
though.
great. He'll be collecting trophies in Kentucky. And you know what, Balky? He's got a running buddy coming with him to help him carry him home.
Good
And
for
it's
him.
not Terp, but it's somebody else in this 4-person panel.
My first time.
What
My
do you think about
grandparents.
that?
My grandparents are from Kentucky. I've spent very little time there in my life, so I'm eager to get there. And I've heard great things about the weekend.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, Mike. You're going to love it. You're absolutely love it. So the picks are in here. Marshawn Lloyd, who I actually like both these picks quite a bit. Marshawn Lloyd in the 14th round, and Elijah Arroyo. Let's talk about Lloyd first here, Mike. This is a player that I think everything that could go wrong went wrong. His nickname in Green Bay was Murphy's Law last year because it was awful. With having appendicitis and the ankle injury. And I'm making that up a little bit when I say Murphy's Law. Nobody called him that, but it just was bad. It was a bad mulligan rookie year for Marshawn Lloyd. And now this year, I don't think that the Packers are going to lean on Josh Jacobs as much as they did last year. I think they're going to go with what should have been plan A last year, was more of a tandem between Jacobs and Lloyd, with Jacobs maybe, making it like a 65-35, a 65-30, and then 5 for Emmanuel Wilson, Chris Brooks, or whatever. I think we're going to see a lot of Marshawn Lloyd this year. If Jacobs were to go down, we're going to see a lot of Lloyd. So I think that pick is really good. I'll get to the Arroyo thing in a second. But listen, I think Adam did you right here with Marshawn Lloyd.
I woke up one day in the middle of June, and he was my most owned player on Underdog. Like, I don't know. That's just how that happened. But usually you want to bet on the so-called mystery box of the rookies, but the Packers really didn't add one, or
right.
They did. It was later. And I liked Lloyd a lot last year, so he's kind of free. I feel like I'm in very special territory here, being able to comment on my own draft without having actually picked the players. So that's exciting.
The tight end selection of Arroyo, based on the news that we're having in regards to him out of Seattle, I would have expected an earlier draft spot than the 15th round. And I think you guys have got a steal there. This player can line up at a variety of wide receiver positions, a la Brock Bowers, and he's great size and good movement skills and a great pass catcher. And people love him more the more they see him. I can't wait for preseason to watch what this player does on the field. Congratulations on that choice.
I hope that Seattle's offense is stable enough to pay that off for us. Like this, what's happening to our team, Farrell, I think is why you pick Bowers at the beginning, because like this is really a scramble and it's a lot of guessing as to which ones of these guys are going to pay off. I would rather not get too like rookie tight end to have heavily invested in that. Not in a dynasty thing, but in a best ball or redraft thing. But you might have a quicker pipeline to Adam than I do. I think I'm going to want one more tonight at least. I
think you might get him. And we talked about 4 tight ends being part of the build last night. And you take your 13th round Theo Johnson, and I would say that this year 2 for Theo Johnson is a continuation of his rookie year. Maybe Balky thinks the same thing.
Well, let me just say this real quick about the Seattle thing. When Fant got cut by the Seattle Seahawks, there were 2 releases in the Pacific Northwest. 2 releases by Seattle. One was the release of Noah Fant. The other was the release of the beast in Elijah Arroyo that is going to run roughshod now for that Seattle offense. We'll see.
He's building it up. You see what he did there?
I'm just telling you, man. like there is a beast there when you're talking. Now, ADP could kill that beast. I mean, if he ascends, to round 11 or whatever, then it's not great. But round 15, yeah, for sure. And I think that's a great pick for you guys. I like the Theo Johnson pick as well. This is sort of burying the lead a little bit, Mike, but I have to go back to round 4. How surprised were you that Marvin Harrison was staring you in the face at the 4-12, a full round after he normally goes in the FFPC Best Ball Tournament?
That was exciting. When we were tracking that round, we were hoping that the quarterbacks would go. I think we would have been open to Hurts and a Devontae Smith kind of thing there, but I think we got away with it. And I'm not a DJ Moore fan, so I was happy to see him go. Worthy was never coming down. I was happy to see McLaurin go. And then it was Harrison, and then it was between McMillan and Hunter for us. So, yeah, that was nice value. And by the way, on Theo Johnson, so if you don't mind, this morning on ADP Chasing, we went through some team pictures, like the workout pictures. Mm-hmm. And the one with the Giants, like Theo Johnson is the proximity to the quarterback seems to like maybe be there a correlation there for value. And Theo Johnson was like right in there. So that probably subconsciously helped me want to pick him.
It's wild because normally when we cover these drafts on this YouTube channel, and then a lot of the KFFSC drafts I've been drafting, Steven Yergalos ends up getting Theo Johnson in every single draft. And I hadn't seen him in the chat at all tonight. Yeah. And then as soon as we start talking about Theo Johnson, he just he's like, yeah, I just finished my first home league of the season. It took forever. And then you still made the Theo Johnson selection tonight, Steven. So congratulations on that.
Well, you guys, I mean, I'll see you in Kentucky. There are how many Buffalo Rochester players in this draft? Oh. Matt Shaw from Rochester, yes. Adam and me, go Bills. Like we're all over this thing. So, here we go.
It's crazy. The imprint that the state of New York has made on what I think is the bloodbath draft so far, Pros versus Joes. There's no weak spots here tonight. And I think that you guys have done an excellent job of cobbling together a team that not only is going to be competitive, but could really run pure at the end of the season. And you might take this thing and you might take the whole thing. Terp always likes to make his predictions on who, is going to win the whole thing when we're covering these live. And he did say after 5 rounds that you guys, and I don't know how he felt about the rest of your draft, but he did say that through 5 rounds, you guys had the best draft of anybody in the first 3 Pros.
Wow. Drafts. Well, it's so hard to win. I mean, these are confined leagues, mm-hmm. right? I mean, you're sort of playing against I watched the show the last 2 nights and tried to use that as useful information, but you're still, only playing against these 11 people and they're all beasts. So I feel like Daigle and Gretsch, by the way, are wannabe Buffalo.
Are they really?
Everyone is, especially in the fall.
Everyone is.
Well,
Terp was right. If you recall, Balky, back during COVID, Terp was right. He was right so often on picking winners. Not much since then. He had a mask on. Sometimes I didn't think it was him. But all in all, he was right a few times.
He was. It was indeed.
That's 5 years ago.
Mike, I'm going to let you get back to Adam in a second here. The last thing I want to ask you is just for anybody who wants to hear more from you, wants to consume more Mike Schopp content, obviously WGR 550, but what from the fantasy football standpoint, what are you guys doing?
So ADP Chasing is every Tuesday morning at 10 Eastern. That's a great group. Pat Crane, Jacob Sanderson, Davis Maddock. I'll be starting up again with Purple Insider with Matthew Collar Wednesday mornings in the first week of August, which I'm excited about, sponsored by FanDuel. And then everything I can get with you guys. I love being part of any of this. It feels like a weird fantasy, so to speak, come true. I'm on WGR in Buffalo 3 to 7 every afternoon. Have been since 2002. And then Bills post game when they're not playing at night because I'm too old.
What a voice! I mean, you listen to this voice. I want to go upstairs, fix some popcorn just so I can melt the butter.
Mike, I guess
melt the butter.
You've been doing it the better part of 2 decades, but you just have the clout where you're like, yeah, guys, I'll do the Bills post game show, but if they're playing at night, find somebody else to do it.
Night games, I'm out. Yeah, night games, I'm out.
Good for you.
I've earned that. It's the one thing I've earned in my career.
At Schopp Talk on X is where to follow him. Mike, get back after it. Enjoy the rest of the draft. Don't be a stranger, and we'll see you in Louisville.
Thanks for having me. Can't wait.
You got it. Absolutely. Mike Schopp at Schopp Talk on X joining the program tonight. Good stuff from him. He's drafting from the 1 spot, except for rounds 14 and 15 when Adam Krautwurst drafted Marshawn Lloyd and Elijah Arroyo for him as well. So that's good that we know when we can check out Mike's viewpoints on fantasy football.
I'm missing Terp.
Yeah, Terp has some youngins at home, so I'm sure he had to take care of that. It happens to the best of us. It's happened to me before too. We're coming up on the home stretch here of the Pros versus Joes Night 3 draft, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention dynasty leagues at the FFPC. We've had 2,000 of them over the course of 15 years, and none have ever folded. So if you want to play in a dynasty league and you want to play in it and you don't want to have to worry about it folding or getting out of it, myffpc.com is where to go for that. You can register for the startups we have going on right now throughout the rest of the summer. Again, myffpc.com. Farrell, let's look at some of the picks here. Jalen McMillan, we talked about a little bit earlier. Interesting that he falls tonight to wide receiver 67. Maybe it's just a case of the Godwin news hasn't sunk in to everybody yet. I'd have to go back and look at the drafts I commissioned earlier tonight for the FFPC Big Gorilla to see where these guys are going. But Godwin in the 8th, Egbuka in the 9th, and then McMillan not until the 16th round. That's something that we'll be watching as well.
Yes.
What do you make of these two running backs that went before McMillan in the 16th round? Jarquez Hunter to Stealing Bananas. I know Sean Siegel's a big fan of him. And then Taj Brooks to the Go Bills guys. Brooks, the ostensible backup to Chase Brown in Cincinnati, with Zach Moss getting placed on preseason PUP today. Hunter and Brooks, Farrell, your thoughts on those guys?
I like Brooks better, although because of the situation. Hunter is a player that I really want to get a feel for during the preseason. He's on my want to watch list. And, you know, I think it's very important. It's one of the lessons I learned in fantasy football from our old pal, Chad Schroeder. Chad Schroeder's told me, despite all the baseball work he does, he watches every minute of preseason football. And I think that's important because I'm a big scout with my eyes, guys, and see a way a player moves. So that's what I want to make my decision on Hunter. But I'm all in on Brooks there.
Yeah, Brooks is a really interesting guy at 16. I don't, you know, he's not going to be the guy if Brown goes down, but he's going to be an integral part. And you know that there's potential shootouts with Cincinnati. I'm not sure that they've fixed their defense yet. It's wild because, you know, two of the cogs that I thought would help that Bengals defense be better this year is Trey Hendrickson, and we don't know exactly when or if he's going to be signed. And then Shamar Stewart, who is working out in College Station, Texas right now, still unsigned there as well. And I don't know what's going to happen there.
If you look at the names of the green stickers that have gone on the board since the 13th round, this is why I like to draft running backs early. Because when you compare them to the wide receivers, you can make much, much better cases for these wide receivers scoring for you than you can some of these running backs. And that, you know, we've got a wide receiver here in the 14th round. They caught 90-plus balls last year. You've already stated your case for McMillan. Thielen, we love the way he played towards the end of the year last year. There's all things about these receivers. Josh Palmer, although I don't agree, Terp thinks that he could be a big contributor this year in that offense. So, and people like Kyle Williams. What I'm saying is I would be much more comfortable putting these running backs on my draft board earlier and picking up these receivers later.
I want to bring up two more receivers here that I think are compelling to talk about. Actually, three more receivers that are compelling to talk about that went in rounds 14 and 15. Demario Douglas goes one pick before Kyle Williams. And if you remember, when Kyle Williams got drafted by New England, this was at a time where we didn't know what Diggs' status was going to be. You know, he was coming off the torn ACL. He was on a boat with some sort of substance. And
goodness.
And yeah, it was wild, right? And so Kyle Williams got pumped up. Darren Armani put this tweet out at Fantasy Mojo on X that Demario Douglas is one of the highest risers over the last couple of months in the FFPC Big Gorilla. People are really starting to like him and how he fits into this offense. And quite frankly, I think that I'm down with the drafting Diggs and I'm down with drafting Douglas. And I'm kind of pushing Kyle Williams to the side. Now, Williams could turn it on at the end of this coming year, but I think the majority of the season it's going to be Douglas and it's going to be Diggs. As of right now, reserve the right to change my mind based on more training camp that I see. Marvin Mims in round 15 to John Zaleski. This is a player I don't think I'd ever draft in a managed league unless I really screwed up my receivers. But in a best ball league, knowing how they want to use this guy, knowing how explosive he is, knowing I never have to worry about starting him, hashtag better in best ball. I love that pick for John Zaleski there. And I think he needs some help at receiver. I mean, this is a team that I mean, he didn't take a receiver until round 4. So he's got Moore, DJ Moore, Cortland Sutton, Jacoby Myers, Jaden Higgins. And then that's it until round 15 when he takes Mims. So I think Mims is really going to help him out there. sort of the yin and yang, because then the next pick he took Wan'Dale Robinson, the guy that doesn't have very many spike weeks, but he'll give you 11, 12 points seemingly every single week. And then the final receiver I wanted to talk about in the 15th round, Quentin Johnston, going to Rob Vieira, who he takes Kyle Williams in the 14th. He takes Quentin Johnston in the 15th. Say what you will about Quentin Johnston, but Mike Williams is no longer a Charger. You got Ladd McConkey. You got Trey Harris, who I guess is making plays, and Justin Herbert talked about him. But I think it was Jim Harbaugh. It was either Jim Harbaugh. I think it was Jim Harbaugh that listed all the receivers that they're going to have to count on with Mike Williams not being there anymore. Right. And maybe this is nothing. Maybe it's something. Trey Harris, he listed like 5th. So there's that. So say what you will about Quentin Johnston, but I think that could pay off in round 15 as well. He's had a nose for the end zone this past season. That could continue this year. So that little pocket of receivers that we see, Mims, Douglas, Johnston, I really like those 3 right there, Farrell.
I do too. And remember all the talk about Jalen Coker last year and Xavier Legette. The talent of these players hasn't gone anywhere. And they contributed in their first year in more difficult situations than we perhaps imagined when they first started. But I think that's tremendous value as we go even into the 17th round.
The tight end collection has been interesting tonight. We talked about the deep end with Andrews, Theo Johnson, and Arroyo. We also see 3 tight ends for Zaleski in Njoku, Otten, and Waller. You look at Dwayne McFarland, who we haven't talked about his team. We should really talk about his team coming up here pretty quick. Colston, Loveland, Mason Taylor, and Juwan Johnson. I think that'll be the jumping off point here. So he waits until round 8. And by the way, Dwayne McFarland, who is a huge fantasy star at Fantasy Life right now, he got his start on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour podcast like a decade or so ago when we had him on to talk FFPC. And you can just tell this guy was a brilliant guy from the get-go, and he's been crushing with Fantasy Life. Loveland, Taylor, and Juwan Johnson, Farrell, waiting until round 8 to draft his first one, and then waiting until round 14 to draft his second one. And oh, by the way, his top 2 tight ends are rookies. Maybe this is a pick-to-win strategy. One of these guys, and maybe both of them, could pop off this year for Dwayne.
I don't think so.
Neither one?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that's a strategy that you can utilize to work through these 11 competitors that you have. I could be wrong. I would like to see where was the value added by punting tight end to this point.
Well, he pounded receivers early on with Lamb, McConkey, Hunter, and Olave.
That's great. That's great advantage. That's
and that helps. Now I'll say this too. Let's look at his running backs. He's got Breece Hall and he's got Caleb Johnson as his top 2. Caleb Johnson, I'm more down on Johnson. I think I'd rather have Jalen Warren at cost rather than Caleb Johnson this year. He gets Quinshawn Judkins in the 10th. Now, he does back that up with Dylan Sampson in the 12th. If you're taking Quinshawn Judkins in the 10th, knowing how undecided his situation is right now legally, do you think drafting Sampson in the 12th is enough, or do you think you need Ford? How would you handle that if you're taking Judkins, Farrell?
We had a commentary earlier about a Cleveland Browns stack, and that's how I would handle that.
Okay.
I would stay away from it. But I see tight ends here, and I see tight ends that he could have possibly gotten later, like Likely, who has a terrific upside in case anything happens with Andrews. Henry, who 68 catches last year, should see more end zone this year. The aforementioned Theo Jones. There's just a lot of guys that I like better than what he did at this position.
Dan Amato's team, we have not talked about his squad as well tonight. Let's talk about it right now because Sean Green says on YouTube he's not sure he's a fan of it. Steph Miller also said that her least favorite team in this draft tonight is indeed Dan Amato's team. I can't show the whole board on here, but I can tell you right now, the running backs are Derrick Henry, James Cook, Alvin Kamara, Javonte Williams, Jerome Ford, Zach Moss. I have no problems with that backfield. That's pretty strong. The receivers, Amon-Ra St. Brown, George Pickens, Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp, and Joshua Palmer. A little bit weak there. Tight ends, Travis Kelce, Dalton Kincaid, Hunter Henry. I think that's fine. The quarterbacks, he's going volume here. Jared Goff, CJ Stroud, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson. I think the Russell Wilson pick might have been overkill. I think he might have been fine with those three quarterbacks. I think this team lives and dies with the receivers, Farrell. St. Brown is coming off that offseason knee surgery, which we think is, at least I think it's going to be fine. Pickens is now the number 2 option, maybe the number 3 option in Dallas, as opposed to being, the number 1 in Pittsburgh. Diggs is still coming off that ACL. Cooper Kupp looked like dust towards the end of last season. And Joshua Palmer late. I mean, I don't know. That's sort of a wild card there. But when you talk about the receivers here on this team, I'm not worried about any other position for Dan Amato as much as I am about these wideouts.
Yeah, but these are some of the better names of fantasy football over the last few years.
Yeah,
and Dan probably thinks that in his 12th position here that they are falling to him. These are some of the guys that he has previously drafted and lived with, and he feels successful with them. I'm probably higher on Goff than you and Terp are, especially in this format, because I think Goff scores big when he's at home. I can see why some of the drafters don't, or some of the chat room players don't necessarily engage with this team, because there's not a lot of newness in it. Mm-hmm. However, I think all of these players still got a lot of game left in them.
The other squad I wanted to talk about here, I thought that we were done, and I'm going to get to the Go Bills guys in a second. I thought we were done at tight end with Gretch and Stiegel here at the 9 spot after Hawkinson, Warren, and Kraft went to him in the first 8 rounds, all 3 of those guys. They've added Harold Fannin in the 18th round. Farrell, a guy that I like adding in my KFFSC best balls late as a number 3 tight end. Yeah, maybe he's nothing. Maybe it's a redshirt year for him, playing behind David Njoku. Mm-hmm. But, man, I look at what those young quarterbacks might be doing, if it's Gabriel or if it's Sanders, and how they might lock on to a player like Fannin, who was drafted with them, who might be working with them right now, as with the second unit in training camp. There's a familiarity there. I don't know if I would have done it with Siegel and Gretch's team here, but Harold Fannin late is definitely somebody I can get on board with, especially in a best ball format.
I agree with you, Boggy. I love Harold Fannin's athleticism. I don't know if we can call Bowling Green that much of a smaller college. I don't know how we view the MAC, but scouts seem to love the players that come out of there. And he's got some classic tight end skills that could translate to the field. Nothing wrong with this pick in this format, especially if he just couldn't decide who else he wanted, so why not?
We talked about Barani, Constantino, and Stutzman's Go Bills franchise, the former back-to-back winners in 2021 and 2022 of the FFPC Main Event. We talked about their draft early: Genty, Brian Thomas, Josh Allen, Worthy. They've added Travion Henderson, David Montgomery, Jalen Wright, Taj Brooks, Keaton Mitchell to that backfield. Ridley, Khalil Shakir, Egbuka, obviously we talked about. Trey Harris, I think, was a little bit early for my liking, but I recognize the upside that Trey Harris is going to have there. They have not gone back to the receiver since then. We'll see what they're going to do here in the 19th. Maybe they add somebody here, but they've been pounding tight ends the second half of the draft, Farrell. None in the first 9 rounds. And then they get Janu Smith, Brenton Strange, Jatavian Sanders, and Dalton Schultz. If you are going to avoid tight ends in the top 9 rounds, do you feel like you have to draft 4 of them here?
Well, then you overpay for it. And these guys are not going to put up, Smith possibly, but these guys are generally not going to put up the kind of numbers. And Schultz's career is declining in Houston. I admire the player a lot. He had some drop issues last year. No, this is why you don't avoid tight end in the first half of the draft, because you've spent 4 spots on it to the expense of some of the other positions, and they're not going to get enough points out of these guys.
I'm just looking at this right now. Am I seeing this right? I think I am. They have 19 players on their roster, Farrell. 12 of those 19 are either rookies or second-year players on this squad. So what did Sammy Hagar say? Youth is king, and it certainly was here for the Go Bills franchise. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, by the way, joining him, and Sean Green said that's a great pick. I don't know what to think about Krosky Merritt. Have you made up your mind on what this guy is? I mean, I've drafted Austin Eckler a few times, Brian Robinson a few times. I don't know how Krosky Merritt fits in year one, unless, I mean, maybe he fits in if one of those guys goes down. I haven't been getting a whole lot of JCM so far.
I've drafted him early. It's a wait and see approach. I like the skill set, and that's about all I can say about it. I'm still in the same place that I was pre-draft and post-draft with him. It's neither plus or minus. It's not someone I'm targeting. He kind of falls in the place with me with the young running back down at Houston. What's his name? Marks.
Woody Marks.
Yeah,
Jaquavius Woody Marks.
These are guys I like for no particular reason other than their makeup and the teams that like them. And I admire the scouting staffs that draft them, and they're not the only scouting staffs that would have. So, all in all, I think that's I see nothing wrong with this pick. What's our old friend that talked about the double-digit drafts, the draft picks? There are no bad draft picks.
After round 10.
I think they fall into that category.
So we have not talked about, in my opinion, enough about the Hooks squad from round 10 tonight, and I do want to focus in on that for a minute or two. Ben and Randall Hook were drafting from the 10 hole, and they kicked things off with Trey McBride. And then they got a lot of pass catchers after that, Farrell. Collins, Adams, Jameson Williams, Flowers, Jaden Reed. What I want to focus on here is not this good group of receivers, which I think they have. I don't want to focus necessarily on McBride and Likely. They're only two tight ends. They're on the clock with their final pick here. We'll see if they add a third tight end or not. Even if they don't, I think they're okay. I like the quarterbacks in Murray, Love, and Shook. What I want to focus in on here is something you said earlier in the broadcast, where you like drafting running backs early because they dry up. Kyron Williams in the 3rd, Tony Pollard in the 7th. That was it for them until round 12. And then they pound Eckler, Ray Davis, Rico Dowdle, Braylon Allen, Devin Neal. I know you don't necessarily like those guys. Can that strategy work? Drafting volume with running backs in the second half of the draft in a best ball format, even if you only have Kyron Williams and Tony Pollard to count on. I feel like you're going to say they're too light there.
That's why I don't like it. However, Davis and Eckler, and it's hard to figure what Eckler's year is going to look like. I think they made the best of it, if that was their strategy, and so I applaud them for that. Not for me. It's just that's just one of the things that I just don't want to do. And I love these receivers. Probably one of the problems is, personally, if I don't go more running backs in the top 10 rounds, I'm going to find so many receivers that I love that I'm going to start the season with not enough running backs. That will be my problem, because I can't take a Devin Neal when some of these wide receivers are still available.
Farrell, earlier when we were talking about Stacy Perez's team from the 5 spot,
can't believe she didn't call in. But
she's listen. This is, you got to focus in on. Mike Schopp was the only one who did, and that was because he could turn his draft over to his co-manager.
There you go.
Stacy took Higgins in the 3rd, Joe Burrow in the 4th, and I said, the other thing that opens yourself up to grabbing Burrow and already having Higgins is you can add another Bengals player later on. And I was thinking maybe Jermaine Burton or Mike Gesicki. Well, she fooled me, and she got Yoshibas in the 19th round. So she does have this Bengals stack here of Higgins, Burrow, and Yoshibas. Will that carry her to first place in this league? That's not for me to say. I think that was interesting that she capped off a really solid draft with Yoshibas and then Sean Tucker in the 20th round here too.
Well, she has red hair and she's stubborn, but that's part of it. I did, look at her tight ends. Those are some interesting cats right there.
Yeah.
And she's a bit of a homer down there in Florida, so she's got White and Tucker and she's truly drafting in the second part of this draft. Her guys, if she had called in, I would have asked her if she would have taken Pittman over Downs, and then we would have fought about it. But all in all, I think she did a very, very solid and no, beyond solid, a very, very competitive job of drafting tonight. I applaud her efforts. It's very good.
This draft definitely did not let me down.
No.
It lived up to the hype for sure. We have a lot of strong teams. We saw some things that I did not expect from some of the pros. We saw some things that, quite frankly, I didn't expect from some of the Joes, and I think that was part of a result of having so much talent in one draft. And this is the perfect way to end week 1 of the Pros versus Joes competition. We'll be back next week, and I'll tell you more about that in a second. But before I do, Farrell, I want to give you the opportunity here. KFFSC.com. We are coming up on Northern Kentucky here in less than a month. We are coming up on Louisville in about a month or so. And we got plenty of online stuff going on at KFFSC.com as well.
We do, and the response has been very, very strong from the listeners and a number of new players coming in. We've talked to a couple of the old guys this year that have actually chosen to retire from fantasy football. We're going to miss them terribly, but the thing that keeps our group together is the continuity of the people that play in the league every year. And it's a celebration of having them here. And Michael joined based on the Krautwurst referral, and that's what it's about. And we'd like to invite Scott Fritz, who was joined us on the show, picked out 2 teams this week, and he's coming up just for one day. But we have a 3-day activity there at Caesars, Southern Indiana, which is our Louisville home for drafting. And we have the Sunday previous to that in Northern Kentucky at the Cincinnati Airport Marriott. And we've got spaces still available. We'll find a way to get you in live where you can be part of this. We've opened up the big payback bulky at 4:30 Eastern time on Sunday afternoon. We've opened that up for some virtual drafters. And the difference of drafting online while the other members are drafting live is that you will get to bid for your draft spot along with the live players. Mm-hmm. So if you want that Jamar Chase, you can stand up and use your fab money to get him.
One of the things we don't talk about enough in Kentucky, you can use your fab money to buy whatever draft slot you want. It's each slot is auctioned off. It's a lot of fun. You can join us live or online, kffsc.com. See you in Northern Kentucky, see you in Louisville. Hopefully you're there. Mike Schopp will be in Louisville this year, which I'm looking forward to seeing him as well. Farrell, another great show tonight. We will continue to check out everything in all the leagues at kffsc.com. You and I will reconvene this Friday with Rob Tomasino, who drafted in the Sunday night draft this year on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. I will talk to you then, my friend.
See you, brother.
That is Farrell Elliott, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, ladies and gentlemen. And that will complete our broadcast tonight of Pros versus Joes number 3. Wow, so much fun. I want to thank so many people: Mike Schopp, Darren Armani, Dave Tripoli, Farrell Elliott, the FFPC, our producer and mutual friend Rob, our audio engineer, my best friend Bryce, and of course, all of you viewers and listeners checking this out. Now, here's what's going on the rest of the week. So Thursday, Pros versus Joes is going to take a respite until Sunday. I'll tell you more about that in a second. Insider Access, presented by the FFPC on the Better Sports Network, is going to air 7 o'clock until 9 o'clock this Thursday night. I'll be hosting along with Ryan Kramer from the Sports Gambling Podcast. Ryan Kramer will be drafting in Pros versus Joes next week, so we'll get an early preview on what he's thinking there, as well as how he's taking in all this news from training camp. So that is this Thursday. And then Friday, as I said, Rob Tomasino, multiple-time FFPC league champ. He joins us as our guest on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour at 10 p.m. Eastern time this Friday, myself and Farrell Elliott. Then Saturday, no show, but Sunday we're back at it with Pros versus Joes number 4. This is the Iron Maiden draft. It will be at 8 o'clock Sunday night. The Joes include Brian Lindo, Jeff Cusmano, Albert and Kyle Leach, Petri and Larson. Brad Petri and Darren Larson will be in this as well. Dennis and Steven Jones. Billy Van Wormer, former guest of this show, he'll be drafting, as well as Vince Staffolino, who you just heard on the road of his High Stakes Lowdown a couple of weeks ago. So a tough Joe crowd, and they'll be going up against the pros. Sigmund Bloom from Football Guys, Mauricio Gutierrez from Estadio Fantasy, Josh Hayes from Rotoballer, Dan Williamson and Bradley Stalder, the Stack Hunters from Player Profiler, will be drafting. Michael Leone will be drafting as well from Establish the Run, and then Justin Boone, now of Yahoo, is going to be drafting. That's going to be fun. Justin Boone actually is going to be making an appearance on Insider Access next month as well. So very excited to have him make his debut. Maybe we'll even get a pre-interview with him on Sunday night. Main event draft slot with the FFPC deadline is this coming Sunday. Make sure You have your teams all lined up, so you get your draft slot early on August 3rd. Multiple big gorilla drafts filling up each and every day. Main event drafts are off and running as well. The best ball tournament and the Superflex best ball tournament, if you're still in best ball season, hey, that's cool. We got to fill up those tournaments as well, and they've been filling up, so take your chance there. $125 or $35 to enter, and you're looking at a $300,000 and $100,000 grand prizes, respectively there. Dynasty startups going on, and then plenty of closed 12-team leagues always going on at myffpc.com. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. This channel will be live again on Thursday for FFPC Insider Access. Pros versus Joes resumes 8 p.m. Sunday night. Farrell, myself, Terp, and so many more. Hope you can join us. Thanks for watching tonight. Really appreciate each and every one of you. Your week officially continues now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Farrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
And I'm not just pandering to you. The audience that we had, the live audience tonight on YouTube, was awesome. On Facebook, on X, it was fantastic. Thank you so much for your support. Makes these Pros versus Joes drafts that much more fun. And we're going to have more fun next week. 3 down, 3 to go. It is the kickoff to fantasy football season. Get in some drafts right now with the FFPC to celebrate. And I'll see you in those draft rooms.